New details tonight. A woman died in a car crash earlier today. It happened at an intersection on NW Radial Highway that has an odd angle.
3 cars were involved in this crash and traffic was detoured for nearly 4 hours. As 6 News' Brent Weber tells us, it's an intersection residents say is difficult to navigate.
At 1:43 p.m., Omaha Police and Omaha Fire Departments were called to the area at 50th and NW Radial for a multi-car personal injury accident.
It's a location police know well, and those who live and work here say this happens all too often.
Oh, it's bad. People like to speed. People don't pay attention. You got kids that's out here too, so you know that's danger.
This is one of many, many accidents. It's this blind spot here that gets everybody.
Omaha police say 78-year-old Robert Williams turned left across 2 lanes towards 50th Street where he lives. Timothy Breersma was driving his Ford F-150 from the opposite direction and struck their Kia before it cleared the intersection.
By the time they seen the guy come, it was too late.
Brianna Pruitt and her sisters live on the street and told police what they saw. They tried to help their neighbors, Williams and his passenger, 76-year-old Melody Stevens.
I talked to the gentleman. He wasn't really talking to us. He was trying to make sure his wife was okay, but she wasn't responding.
Melody Stevens died of her injuries after arriving at Nebraska Medicine. Williams, a passenger of Breersma's, and the driver of a third car that avoided the collision but crashed several hundred feet away were all taken to the hospital.
While we are not investigators, you can see from their markings the danger of this intersection. Cars coming around that corner by Wurgler Photo. If it's a high speed, it appears they may have struck that turning vehicle there and not even seen them. It is a blind spot.
He was going at least 80 miles per hour, and he came through that blind spot there, and by the time they knew he was there, it was too late.
Well, this particular accident today, we believe speed was a contributing factor, so that's one thing that we are looking into.
According to Omaha's Fatal Crash Dashboard, this is the city's 16th vehicle-related fatality of 23. It's not the first in recent years here. One person died in a head-on collision at this location in August of 2020. On your side at Omaha, Brent Weber, 6 News.
And more than 23,000 vehicles daily pass through the intersection in the Waverly Park neighborhood, not far from Benson High School.
Authorities